To God be the glory sa umagang ito at once again, the Lord has called us to be in this place. I welcome all of you from different parts of the world, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, kundi sa ibang bansa, sa Amerika, sa Canada, kung saan man kayo naroon, Europa, no? I welcome all of you dito sa ating gawain. Today, we want to talk about something na I believe is really important talaga for us to always keep in mind. Ang title ng ating morning devo is Finding the Lost. So this is Luke 15 verses 1 to 10. Yan po ang passage natin today. And siguro, if you are observing, or even if you're honest with yourself, you know na hindi lahat ng mga mananampalataya ay ganun ka-interested or passionate to do something to find the lost. Hindi po pangunahing interest o pangunahing mithiin ng puso to find people who do not yet know the Lord o wala pang relationship with Him, to bring them to Christ, and then to gather them together into a community of faith. Now, ilan sa mga kakilala ninyo are into that kind of passion? Or kayo mismo? How much of your time is devoted to really making sure that you go out of your way to try to look for those who do not yet have a relationship with God and to try to help them to have a relationship with God? I think karamihan sa mga mananampalataya, if we are honest about it, are really more interested in being with fellow believers. Kasi mas masaya yon, mas exciting. That's why during the pandemic, maraming mga tao nagkaroon ng mga mental health issues because, hindi na sila nakakapunta sa physical worship service. Of course, kung hindi sila nakakapag-reach out sa lost, they don't have the same kind of feeling na parang may nawawala. Pero yung hindi nila nakikita yung mga kapatiran, of course, that makes them feel very sad. And I understand that. Pero if you're not able to reach people for the Lord, do you also feel something is missing or something is lost? And I think it also affects how lost people think about Christians kasi they can sense na parang hindi sila interested. No? I mean, the Christians are not really interested in reaching out to them. In fact, ang madalas nilang encounter ay yung mga Kristiyano who tend to be judgmental, no? And so they'd rather just not associate with Christians. So that is a problem because how can we find the lost kung hindi tayo interested? But also, how can the lost be found kung hindi rin sila interested sa atin? So that puts us in a dilemma. But Jesus, our Savior, of course, shows us the way. We want to look at, gusto natin tingnan ng chapter 15 ng Gospel of Luke. And in chapter 15, we find three parables or stories stringed together. The first two are shorter, and then the last one, siguro familiar kayo or you have encountered that story. It's the parable of the prodigal son, which is actually, some people nga sabi nila the best title for that would be the parable of the patient father or the loving father, whichever. Okay, we are just going to look at the first two stories, which are shorter. At gusto natin pag-usapan dito yung how the Lord Jesus shows us the way and how we ourselves ngayon can find the lost, at maging passion natin yun. So ating basahin itong verses 1 to 10 ng chapter 15. And then we'll pray and ask God to guide us. Sabi sa verse 1, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Does she not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I've found my lost coin. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Thanks be to God for His Word. And so manalangin po tayo nawa itong salita ng Panginoon sa atin this morning ay tumimo sa bawat isa sa atin to help us to understand the will of God for our lives and for us to respond in obedience to the Lord as He makes it clear to us what He wants. So let us pray. Lord, maraming salamat sa iyo sa biyaya mo, Panginoon. As you have gathered us here dito sa online place of grace na ito. May we receive your word gladly, Panginoon, sa puso namin. Open our hearts, O Lord, I pray. Open our eyes. Tulungan niyo kami, Panginoon, na ma-realize, makita, maunawaan your will for us concerning this matter. And may we respond, Lord, through faith. Magkaroon nawa kami ng obedient response to you. At hindi lang yung papakinggan namin. And then we will just move on to whatever it is that we want to do today. I pray that you would steer our hearts, O Lord, and help us to see the truth. Tulungan niyo po kami, Panginoon, by your grace, O Lord God, na maunawaan ang kalooban mo para sa amin. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Now, I'm sure itong istorya na to is something na, o itong dalawang storya na to anyway, is something na familiar to most of you, if not all of you. We want to talk about finding the lost. Or more specifically, how can we find the lost today? This is something na, kailangan maging concern natin because tayo ay tinawag ng Panginoon niligtas hindi lamang para pumunta sa langit, kundi para maging instrumento niya sa mundong ito sa pagliligtas ng mga tao. The Lord saved us, forgave us of our sins, and started transforming us day by day. Simula nang nakilala natin ang Panginoon. And before our lives are over, before we go to the presence of God, o kaya when He returns, no one knows the day or the hour. So habang tayo ay may oras, may panahon, the Lord wants us to represent Him in the world, to do what He would do if He was us. Napakalaga na ma-recognize natin na may purpose yung life natin. And one of which, and I believe the primary thing of which we are called by God, is to use our time, talents, and treasures so that the lost may be found. Ito yung mga tao who do not have a relationship with Him yet, who do not know the Lord. And if they are not saved, of course, they will go to that eternal place of judgment. Now, of course, yung mga tao, they're so concerned about that. Maraming usapin at kwentuhan ngayon sa social media tukol doon sa sinabi ni Joy Spring, and I do admire her for her boldness and courage. Kaya lang, everybody is focusing on the wrong thing. No? Para bang sino ba siya? Sino ba siya for judging kung sino pupunta sa heaven or hell and all of that crap. Without realizing, that that's not really the main thing. Anyway, we want to find the lost, And to do that, let's talk about 4 principles dito sa storya nito that I think is important for us to recognize, no? The first principle is this: the lost are all around us. Okay? Yun yung unang-unang katotohanan o prinsipyo that I want us to recognize. They are all around us, pero minsan di lang natin sila nakikita because we either have a judgmental spirit or yung mata natin sarado, or we are just so focused on our own concerns. So, just starting that story, makikita mo dito na that's the situation. Sabing ganyan, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him. Now, notice ninyo na, dalawang categories ng mga tao. Una yung tax collectors. And so they are, categorized separately. Kasi ang mga tax collectors nung araw, kinamumuhian ng mga tao because they are considered traitors, no? Kasi sila yung naniningil ng buwis, no? In behalf of the Roman Empire. And then, of course, yung sinners, which are in quotation marks, refers to everyone else. Okay? Now, in contrast to that, sabi sa verse 2, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So, na-offend sila. Because they feel na si Jesus bilang isang holy person or a rabbi, para bang he is spending all his time with people na tinatawag nga nilang mga sinners. And na-offend sila because hindi lang sa his spending time, nakikipag-fellowship siya talaga. Kasi sabi, eats with them. So he spends time with these people. Now, I want us to take note of the fact na itong mga taong ito na binabanggit dito sa storya na ito, have always been around them, I mean, hindi naman yan mga tao na kailangan saliksikin mo pa. These are people who are already part of their society, part of their culture. Na-encounter nila itong mga taong ito siguro pag pumupunta sila sa marketplace. I mean, these people are just all around them. Mga tao who do not know the Lord. In fact, alam nga nila how to describe those people. Ang tawag nila sinners. Which means, as far as they are concerned, itong mga tao na ito do not have any standing before God. These are people who are separated from God and in danger of judgment. O kaya feeling nila na na-judge na itong mga taong ito. Now, in the same way, kung bubuksan lang natin ang ating mga mata, there are many tax collectors and sinners all around us. Mga tao who do not know the Lord, mga tao who have no relationship with God. And siyempre, alam naman natin, maaaring hindi lahat sila might be interested if ever we do approach them to talk about Jesus. That is a fact, of course. Pero let's not presume na walang magiging interested. Because as you see in the story, sa verse 1, sabi nga now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him. What does that mean? It means na hindi lang na there are lost people all around us, kundi it also means na mayroong mga tao who would be interested. You know, kung magkaroon sila ng pagkakataon, they would like to hear about Jesus. Now, of course, there's something about Jesus that attracts them kasi siguro nararamdaman nila na Jesus does not judge them, does not reject them, does not ostracize them or whatever. Hindi niya tinatanggihan itong mga taong ito. And they can feel the welcome. Kaya they are attracted. Now, this is something to consider, no? Totoo na mayroong mga tao or siguro may makikilala tayo who might be hostile or sabihin natin talagang kahit anong gawin mo, they are not going to be interested in the things of God. So be it. Part talaga yun ng realidad. But please wag tayo mag-conclude na walang magiging interesado. Because as you see in the story, people who do not know the Lord may actually be seeking the Lord. Siguro hindi lang nila ma-define o hindi nila alam that it is the Lord that they are seeking. Pero aware sila that they need to think about these spiritual matters. Now, itong mga tax collectors and sinners who were all gathering to hear Jesus may not understand everything that the Pharisees and the teachers of the law would know, kasi maalam sa Bible yung mga yan, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. Pero nevertheless, they are willing to learn. Di po ba? So I think yung ginagawa ni Jesus is a good challenge and example sa atin. The lost are all around us. Now, that's the first principle. The second principle is this. Finding the lost still requires initiative and effort. Okay? Kailangan ng initiative. We have to not just parang wait for them to come, but we must take the initiative and there is some effort involved. Now, sabi nga dun sa verse 2, no, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So Jesus is taking the initiative. He's not waiting for the lost to come to him. Kaya nga yung mga simpleng efforts natin to start a Bible study, for example, sa bahay natin, or anywhere na posibleng gawin yun. Or maybe just to invite people, no? To have a watch party with us, habang nanonood, kunyari tayo ng, kunyari, yung Sunday service ng RLCC, maybe you can show it to people and invite your neighbors and magkaroon ng watch party over a cup of coffee or merienda. Now, of course, pag sinabi na natin sa sarili natin, hindi sila pupunta, of course, we'll never take the initiative. That's why si Jesus told them this, told them parables, So, sabi niya una sa, verse 4, suppose one of you, has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? Now, yung question na yun, of course, mayroong mga presumption doon. Well, una sa lahat, of course, di ba, hindi naman lahat ng nakikinig sa kanya are probably shepherds. But I'm sure, they can imagine na if a person is a shepherd at talagang he is a true shepherd, talagang magkakaroon siya ng love and concern, for all his sheep. Now, so meron siyang 100 sheep, nawala yung isa, iiwan niya to look for the other one, the one that is lost, until he finds it. So that may require some effort, no? And sabi niya, when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Now, doon sa isang storya naman sa verse 8, sabi, or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. That means, bawat silver coin na tinatawag is equivalent sa isang araw ng paghahanap buhay ng araw. So, it's 1 day's worth of wages. So, meron siyang 10, which means iniipon niya ito. And then sabi, does she not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? So, sa madaling salita, hindi lang sa totoo yung maraming loss sa paligid natin, pero kailangan din ng initiative and effort. Kailangan mag-pray tayo for creativity, for wisdom. Minsan kasi, kapag meron tayong ibang mga problema sa buhay, for example, nangangailangan tayo ng pera, we would be quite creative, no, to figure out paano ba tayo magkakapera. Kung ang business natin medyo matumal, gusto natin umasenso, maybe we would sit down and think about ways and means para yung negosyo natin ay umangat. In other words, when it comes to other concerns, we are willing to think about paano natin mapapabuti yung bagay na yun. Because concerned tayo doon. And here's, I think, a problem na we need to address sa maraming mga mananampalataya. When tayo po ay lumapit sa Panginoon to receive Him into our hearts as Lord and Savior, ang ibig sabihin nun, hindi lang yung, Lord, iligtas mo ko, dalhin mo ako sa langit when I die. It actually means na, Lord, from now on, yung agenda mo will be my agenda. At kung ano yung importante sa iyo, Lord, reveal them to me and they will be important to me as well. You know, si Jesus, especially, makikita natin yan, sa chapter 19 ng Gospel of Luke. He came to seek and find the lost. And so when you say Jesus is Lord, you need to ask yourself the question, am I also interested in seeking and finding the lost? Now, of course, meron tayong iba't ibang sitwasyon sa buhay, and therefore, meron tayong iba't ibang kapasidad. And maybe not all of us, maybe at that point sa ating buhay wherein we can physically talagang look for the lost. But that's the wonder and the beauty of the church, because we are put together as one people para we can all contribute in one way or the other para sa ganitong bagay. For example, some of us, perhaps because of our limitations, may only be able to support or subsidize the work of finding and the lost, Maybe yun ang binigay ni Lord sa ating contribution. For others, maybe we can be a person who can host. Pwede tayong mag-create ng events so that we can invite the lost. Of course, there are those who can be active participants or workers sa gawain, They may be the ones to lead the meeting. They may be the ones to sing, for example, for the worship, yung mga ganung bagay. Others naman, they can become resource persons. Pwede nila ipagamit kung ano naman yung gamit nila. Even kung may sasakyan sila para madala nila doon sa lugar yung mga tao na nire-reach out. And of course, higit sa lahat, maaaring ang may co-contribute natin is to become prayer warriors, in reaching out to the lost. Sa madaling salita, there are many ways for us to be involved, pero something na kailangan natin maunawaan this morning is that hindi natin maliligtas ang mga tao without effort, without taking the initiative. No? So that's the principle there. Thirdly, not everyone would appreciate what we are doing. Now, you would notice dito sa mga storya na ito, So let's look at in the first story, no? Sabi dun sa story tungkol sa shepherd, and when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." Now, masaya siya kasi natagpuan niya yung kanyang lost sheep, but ini-invite niya yung mga friends niya and neighbors niya, but, we are not told exactly whether masaya rin ba yung mga friends and neighbors niya. Di ba? In fact, they may not even be concerned about those things. Now, hindi nami-mention niya, but later in the third story, yung the parable of the prodigal son, we can see na this would be highlighted. Itong the fact na hindi makarejoice yung iba. Ganon din yung makikita natin, di ba? Doon sa storya ng babae na nawala ng coin. Sabi niya, when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I've found my lost coin." Again, we are not told kung nag-rejoice ba sila. Whether sila ba ay, nagkaroon ng pagdiriwang. Now, if you are not the person na nawalan, you would not really be concerned about that thing na nawawala. Ang nako-concern lang dun sa mga bagay na nawawala ay yung nawawalan. Di ba? Pag nawawala yung susi mo, concern ka. At pag natagpuan yun, masaya ka. Pero if I am looking at that and maybe sinabi mo sa akin nawawalan ako ng susi, I might be concerned a little bit and maybe I'll pray for you na sana matagpuan mo. At kung sakaling matagpuan mo, maybe masaya ka and I'll be happy for you, pero not at the same level as you are happy. Kasi ikaw yung nawalan eh. What I mean is this. Something very important na ma-recognize natin, which is actually dinisplayan ng mga Pharisees and teachers of the law. Not everyone would appreciate what we are doing. You know why? Because not everybody understands what it means na merong mga tao na naliligaw. Only the Lord truly knows that. And He shares that passion and desire sa puso ng mga tao who are close to Him. That's why I believe na a person who does not walk with God faithfully cannot really know the heart of God. And so ito yung dahilan why in the church today, many people would not really be so concerned about finding the lost, or even kung matagpuan yung mga lost, they're not so interested, or even they would not even be rejoicing at all kasi para sa kanila, what does it really matter? For example, we have outreaches right now sa Southridge, sa Southside, and hopefully soon sa Vista Hills. And the question is, how many of us are really concerned na maging successful and effective yung mga outreaches na yun? And if ever merong mga tao makakilala sa Panginoon, are we willing to rejoice with those who are at the forefront of those outreaches? Hindi lahat kasi ng tao are interested to ask, kamusta na yung ating gawain sa Southridge or sa Train a Child? Kamusta na kaya doon sa Southside? Kamusta na kaya sa Vista Hills? How can I help? How can I pray? Usually people come to me and they say, "Pastor, kailan tayo magkakaroon ng face-to-face service?" Yun ang tanong nila sa akin because, of course, naiintindihan ko naman. Gusto nila yon because gusto nilang maramdaman yung experience ng worship service, being able to worship the Lord. And that's all right. But what I'm saying is this, those who walk with the Lord closely, nagkakaroon sila ng transformation of heart and they begin to see that there are things that matter to God more than anything else. And so, that is something to consider. So, unang-una sa lahat, the lost are all around us. No? Nakikita ba natin sila? Also, finding the lost still requires initiative and effort today. Bagamat, maybe they're just around us pero we don't make an effort. Tapos not everyone would appreciate what we are doing. Let's be honest, we can invite people to rejoice with us kasi umaandar na muli yung gawain natin sa ganitong lugar o sa ganyang lugar. But not everyone would be rejoicing. But there is a fourth principle and I want us to understand. Once found, there is joy in heaven. There is joy in heaven. And I think that's important, no? Kaya sabi ni Jesus sa verse 7, I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Now, it doesn't mean na parang walang pakialam si Lord dun sa mga tao na righteous na. But it does mean na, ang gusto ng Panginoon ay ma-save lahat ng mga tao. In the same way, sabi sa verse 10, sabi nga niyan, I tell you there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Now, if there's, anyone or someone who would be so appreciative of reaching the lost, of course, it will be no other than God Himself and all His angels. Because they are the ones who are truly passionate about this. Now, maraming gawain, and there is more that can be done actually. But my challenge to all of us is to remember these four principles. Una-una, the lost are all around us. In fact, through the internet, it's not hard for us to reach the lost. And I'm so thankful to God for those who pray for me, those who support my work. I praise the Lord sa mga tao na tumutulong as I try to come up with different ways and means to reach the lost. I wish marami akong kalakasan or kakayanan to be able to do more. But siyempre, I have to consider my limitations also. But you know what? Marami pa rin magagawa eh. Like for example, I do believe that there are many young people who need the Lord. Kaya lang, I'm looking for younger people who might be interested to reach their generation for Christ. Because finding the lost still requires initiative and effort. Again, it's challenging because not everyone would appreciate what we are doing. Pero the encouragement here is that once found, itong mga lost people na ito who are brought into the kingdom of God, there is joy in heaven. Okay? So, sa madaling salita, finding the lost must always be our passion, mga kapatid. We must not forget about this. Ang paghahanap ng mga nawawala ay dapat palaging simbuyo ng ating damdamin. Huwag nating kalimutan ito. Huwag tayong masyadong concern lamang sa sarili natin. Isipin natin, paano ko kaya ma-reach out yung mga lost sa paligid ko? Or paano kaya ako makikipag-partner with somebody or with a group of people? Or how can I support kaya more and more yung gawain ng Panginoon? Or how can I pray kaya for this work to be done? These are the kinds of things na dapat laman ng puso at isipan natin. Amen? So, tayong lahat po ay manalangin. Dear Lord, patawarin niyo po kami sa kawalan namin minsan ng interest to contribute yung time, talents, and treasures namin for finding the lost. It is true, Panginoon, na meron kaming iba't ibang sitwasyon. And so therefore, yung contribution namin sa gawain na to would be different in each case. Pero none of us can make an excuse, Panginoon. Tulungan niyo po kami, Lord, na maupo sa isang lugar pagkatapos itong morning devo na ito, to ask ourselves a very important question. What would you want us to do, Panginoon, so that we can actually fulfill itong nasa heart mo of finding the lost wherever they may be? Show us, O Lord, kung ano ang magiging contribution namin dito. Salamat po, Panginoon. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.